All right, welcome back to the Andre Duke Show. Appreciate everybody tuning in here before we get rolling. Before I open up the phone lines, appreciate everybody. Go see our sponsor, located in Portland, Indiana. Go see Rocky, go see Heath at Williams Auto Parts if you're looking for your new and used auto parts needs. If you need a mirror, you need an alternator, hell, even if you need an engine. Go see Rocky, go see Heath, and if you can't physically go there, see them, if you are all across the country, give them a call at 260-726-8001. Go see Rocky, go see Heath for your new and used auto parts needs. Located in Portland, Indiana. Appreciate those guys. As we get the show off the ground this evening, I'm going to be taking questions. The phone line's going to be open if you guys want to call in, and that phone number is 260-255-4069 on this fine Tuesday, May 5th, Cinco de Mayo as well. Appreciate everybody tuning in. That's where we're going. As the topic du jour, still going on out there, is the Trinidad Chambliss. Not necessarily him in particular, but the case of the eligibility. They cannot get that right in college football. I think the college football eligibility, I don't know if you would call it a crisis, but a lot of the stuff that is going on is, I would say, mainly one of the bigger issues, because they can't get it right is the problem. Because basically, when they opened up the COVID thing, they, for the most part, opened up Pandora's box. I mean, essentially, by allowing the extra years for some and no extra years for others. That is what, in my opinion, created this whole mess. And then, on top of that, when you have the COVID stuff happen, you have the guys with the extra years that want to continuously stay, and then NIL kicked off. It was basically in my opinion, a cocktail for, it was basically the perfect storm, is essentially what I get out of it. And the NCAA started losing in court big time. I don't think a lot of people were prepared for that. And then also, when it comes to the majority of the folks out there that are living in quote-unquote academia that have to deal with this, they could not fathom the idea of the kids actually winning in court, because they had a stranglehold for so long, and a lot of folks didn't challenge it. And with it not getting challenged, and then all of a sudden it's open season, it just completely blows it up. It blows up their entire model. So I think going forward, I mean, realistically, it would have been smarter for the NCAA to have came off of it and started paying kids sooner. We wouldn't have gotten to this point. And I don't think that, some people are clamoring out there for collective bargaining, but I don't see how that's going to work, getting almost 20,000 kids on the same page. You have the Title IX issue that comes in there. Arkansas just cut tennis, their men's and women's tennis programs. So I think there's a lot to be said there. There's a lot of meat on that bone. I don't know how they're going to put the toothpaste back in the tube, to be completely honest. And Am I completely against the kids getting paid? No. They should be compensated, but I also feel like it shouldn't be to the point to where they're holding a university hostage, kind of like the Nico situation. But I will stand firm. I think Josh Heupel, Danny White, the people at Tennessee did the right thing with Nico. I think that letting Nico go was kind of one of the necessary evils of the business at this end of it. But also, where I push back is I think it caused a lot of issues in locker rooms when it came to the NIL, because you have freshman kids sitting out there that are making $1 million and not playing. And you have a 2-year starter on the roster that's getting a little of nothing. You don't think that's going to cause animosity? Come on, we're all human here. So I think that, the people that are downplaying the whole NIL is not that big of a deal, it's not causing divide. I think it causes a big divide in the locker room, because you hear the Twitter grumblings and the Reddit posts. Some of that stuff is true. I mean, universities won't acknowledge it, and people on the beat, will not talk about it because it would be taboo and they don't want to lose their access. But anymore, I think you're at the stage where there really is no access in college football programs like it used to be. I mean, they can't even go watch practice. What they get to watch is warm-ups, and then they get specific rules on what they're allowed to report on. Do I think the specifics of the universities trying to control the narrative, it works for the most part, but when stuff gets completely out of hand, when stuff blows up, there's too much damage control to be done. And I think eventually, in probably 5 to 10 years, we're going to hear some of the NIL stories when some of these guys are done playing and they just don't care anymore. They're going to start talking. And hopefully your program isn't at the forefront of what's going on when it comes to that. But also, as we get rolling throughout the show, phone line is open. Number to call, 260-255-4069 is the number to call. If you want to call in, appreciate all you guys tuning in. Also, if you're on Twitter, come on over to YouTube. That helps us grow the show, hitting the like and subscribe button if you like college football, like this show. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at on the whole NIL thing. I think the kids should be paid. Some people are vehemently against that. I think that when you look at some universities that were slow to respond to the NIL era, and they didn't, how do I want to say this? They were not proactive in the whole situation. Take Wisconsin, for example. I think that they were way behind the curve. I think Clemson's behind the curve, but I think Dabo's slowly figuring it out. I don't think he likes it, but we'll see. We'll see where the whole thing shakes out in the end. I think SMU was proactive on it. SMU did a whale of a job by getting, at one point, I believe they were in Conference USA. Now they're in the ACC. I think as I talked last night, I think that there's no real way to get out of conference realignment in 2030. That is the year that I have circled. I think the ACC is done like dinner. And I think there's going to be programs like Pitt, Boston College. I I think are going to be on the outside looking in, to be completely honest. When you have Clemson is valuable, I think Florida State is valuable at times, but I think they're in such financial hell because of the stadium renovation, and they're trying to get it under control. They've got to put, some type of winning football together. Some people will disagree on the Norvell stuff, but I think that for the most part, when it comes to Mike Norvell, they've got to get it figured out, and they got to win games and be appealing to one of the big boy conferences if they're going to get picked up, to be completely honest. Because if they don't, they're going to get left in, you're either going to go to the Big 12 or the American. And I don't know how much longer the Big 12's books will be open, because I don't think the Big 12 is going to take all the rest of the best. I think the SEC takes North Carolina, and I think they take Virginia. And I know the North Carolina people are going to wig out, but if they could talk Sankey into taking 4 teams, I think they take North Carolina, Virginia, Clemson, and Duke. Could be your other 4. And that would put the SEC to 20. I think the Big Ten potentially would look at Miami and Florida State, because that means they would be coast to coast, north to south. Now, do I think the Miami people would be thrilled to get into the Big Ten? Yes, I think they would. Because it would just be acquiring brands at this point. And then you can keep the Florida State Miami thing together, and I think it would help the Big Ten's brand. And then if those 6 are gone, what does NC State, Wake Forest, what do the best of the rest do? That's my opinion, because I also think Cal and Stanford have about 1 foot in. Because I hate to say it, and those folks there, I don't know how much of a financial investment they do have. That's the problem on the Cal Stanford side of it. I mean, I know they brought Andrew Luck in there. He was calling season ticket holders. Could Stanford be good? It's the academic standard. You either want to hold the academic standard or you want to be good at football. I think the day and age of doing both is over. I really do, because of the keeping up with the sheer fact of keeping up with the Joneses is, I think that's something you have to look at. But when they pluck those 6 teams from the ACC between the Big Ten and the SEC, is the Big 12 going to take Pitt, Boston College? I mean, geographically, it makes 0 sense. Wake Forest, NC State. I think the Big 12 should have just scooped up Cal and Stanford and called it good. Because Arizona State ran for the hills. If the Big 12 would have took the other 4 schools, I don't think you would see as much realignment. Because I know Memphis offered a huge package for them to get into the Big 12, and the Big 12 basically said, no, thank you, because they didn't want Memphis. I would say there's a lot that you could do there. It's not a major market. It's the 3rd biggest university in the state as far as athletics wise. So I don't know where the Memphis people will end up staying. I mean, they're pretty comfortable in the American. I think that for the most part, I don't know how they're going to navigate getting into another conference, because if the ACC implodes, does Memphis jump in the ACC? But there's also schools in the American that, let's be real, could be in Conference USA and be way more competitive. But, it's all about perspective, in my opinion. Also, phone line is open. Number to call, 260-255-4069 is the number to call. Also, do us the biggest favor, hit that like and subscribe button. That helps us a ton as well. So there's kind of that. Also, you folks watching on Twitter, come on over to YouTube and hit that like and subscribe button. That helps us big time. But, going forward, I don't think it adds up. And here was an interesting stat that I seen on Notre Dame. Notre Dame's national championship or semi games this century: 2012 lost by 28, 2018 lost by 27, 2020 lost by 17 in the Rose Bowl, and then 2024 they won the Orange Bowl by 3, and then the national championship they lost by 11. So that's kind of what it is for Notre Dame. But speaking of Notre Dame and the Midwest, Penn State, I know I'm probably going to be one of the people that are going out on a limb here, but when it comes to Penn State, the post-James Franklin era, what does that look like? Obviously, since Joe Paterno, Bill O'Brien, James Franklin, and now we have Matt Campbell. Only in the last 70 years, they've had 4 coaches. Which I think the alumni, I think the base up at Penn State is pissed. I almost think that they're going to, by bringing in Matt Campbell, that they think they're going to reinvent the wheel. But this is going to be the ultimate test, in my opinion, when it comes to Penn State. Did James Franklin max out Penn State to the highest that it could get to? Or can Matt Campbell get him over the hump? I think that looking at it from a bird's eye, I think you're taking a big risk here if you're Penn State. Because it's when Nebraska fired Bo Pelini, it seems oddly and eerily similar. A guy that won 9-10 games a year, and then you move off of him. What does the future hold? How does Penn State respond? I don't know, to be completely honest. Do I think that they'll get into the realm to where they end up in purgatory like he was at Iowa State every 3 years having a good year? That can't happen at Penn State. Because I think taking over Penn State and taking over Iowa State are 2 different programs. Iowa State, not a culture of winning, not a rich history. Matt Campbell and Earl Bruce, I think, are the only 2 coaches to win 10 games in a season in like the last 50 years at Iowa State. James Franklin himself at Vanderbilt, I think, had just as many winning seasons at 10 winning seasons at Iowa State. So I think that going forward, looking at it from a bird's eye, you're taking a big risk if you're Penn State. I know a lot of people in their media are like trying to tamper down expectations and think that this is going to be the savior. I've seen this before. I've seen this show before. It's reminds me a lot of Nebraska in Frank Solage, and then when they moved on, it didn't go well, and then finally Bo Pelini shows up, and Bo Pelini, I think, maxed it out as much as he could, and then it just completely. I mean, I think Matt Rule is a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest, to be completely honest with you. I don't see how he's not. They're the only ticket in town. And with them being the only ticket in town, they have money. People just don't want to go to Nebraska because even kids my age don't fully understand who Tom Osborne is. You know, the bigger, faster, stronger era. In the 80s through the mid 90s to the end of the 2000s until Osborne retired, Nebraska was basically one of the premier programs in the country, right up there with Oklahoma, Texas. Basically one of the biggest premier programs out there. I don't know where they think that people that live outside of that area, they see the N, the N on the helmet. It doesn't do anything for him. Ndamukong Suh is probably the last great Husker to do anything in the NFL, and now he's retired. I mean, Scott Frost won a national championship there, and he went to Nebraska, and it didn't work out. I mean, the old athletic director wrote a lot in his book about that, about how he was unserious and things of that sort. So we'll see how it works out for Nebraska. I mean, I think Penn State, you were playing with fire with firing Franklin. I'm just letting people know because Matt Campbell didn't really wow anybody at Iowa State, in my opinion. I mean, he had good teams for Iowa State, but you can get away with that in the Big 12. I mean, to be completely honest, you're the third best conference. I mean, it just, you know, they were poised to try to make the college football playoff, and they kind of, I wouldn't necessarily say cratered, but they did lose to Colorado last year on the road. So I don't know where it shakes out. Diplomat says, wasn't Minchie supposed to go to? Yeah, they were all crystal balling him and having him going to Nebraska when he left Notre Dame, and then all of a sudden, nope. He redirects and goes to Kentucky because people just do not want to go to Nebraska. It's in the middle of nowhere. I'm sorry, but they're better years. The 17-year-olds never seen a good Nebraska team. The 16 and 17-year-old kids never seen a good Nebraska team. Also, phone line is open tonight. Number to call, 260-255-4069. If you want to call in, we'll be here for a little bit. We'll probably be here for another hour or so. But if you want to call in, you can. You guys can drive the show tonight. But I'm just talking Nebraska, Penn State comparisons, along with some other stuff. I think that they've got to be careful. Some people may disagree with that, but when they fired Franklin, I think it's something that you had to be in the back of your mind. You had to know that what if this doesn't work? If it doesn't work, then what are we going to do? And because now you're stuck, and then also, I will throw it out there, Happy Valley's not the most attractive place in the Big Ten. It's really not. There's no selling point with Penn State. So I think if people want to get into it, I mean, we can. It's in the middle of nowhere. They're remodeling the stadium. I get it. So we'll see how it shakes out for Matt Campbell. I'm not doubting Matt Campbell, the person, but I'm just saying If it doesn't go well, it's going to snowball fast, and the Penn State people are going to be pissed because they were extra patient with Franklin. Do I think the new regime up there is going to be as patient with Matt Campbell? No, I don't see it. Because I don't think they're going to settle for 10-2 and not making the playoffs, or 9-3 or 8-4. You'll get 2 or 3 of those, and I think you're out the door, bud. Some people are going to argue that, but I've seen they want to win. And so that's kind of where we're at. But also, we'll transition into the Michigan schedule. Kyle Whittingham's first year. I briefly talked about that yesterday. We can go through it. But also, phone line is open if you want to call. Numbers on the ticker below. I'll put up the banner that the phone line is open. Number to call, 260-255-4069 is the number to call. Appreciate all you guys tuning in like Diplomat. Another comment here. Penn State was just inflated to boost Michigan and Ohio State and Oregon. Now that, to me, is USC's position. Well, I guess we can dive into the USC thing. I don't know what they're going to do. Because if Lincoln Riley goes 9-3 again, do you talk him into getting a new job? Where would he want to go? But I think there's several guys in that position that Lincoln Riley's in right now. Because if he goes 9-3, because back in the day, if you went 9-3 and got a New Year's Six bowl, your fan base was satisfied. Now they've put the college football playoff in there, and it's completely turned the expectation upside down. It's playoffs or bust for a lot of these big schools that haven't been competitive for a while. And I get what you're saying, Diplomat, on that. Or Disciple, sorry. Sorry, Disciple. I've been calling you Diplomat, but I don't have my glasses on. But I think that going into it, Lincoln Riley's in a rock and a hard place. Disciple says Riley will be out. I don't know. That's a huge buyout, man. Does USC have $80 million to make him go away? I think that's the same thing with Sarkisian too, down at Texas. Also, phone lines open, Disciple, if you want to call in. 260-255-4069 is the number to call in. But I look at certain guys that are in that position. I think Sark's got to make the college football playoff, or the Texas people are going to go crazy. I just don't see how, if they don't, how it works out. I just don't see it. I think also going forward, I think Sarkisian's in that boat. I think Lincoln Riley's in that boat. And then you got to remember also what NFL teams come calling for college football coaches. So I think that, there's a lot of that being dished out there. So, man, the Pistons are crushing the Cavs right now. But anyway, Michigan's schedule. They start off with Western Michigan. Then they have Oklahoma coming to town September 12th. They have UTEP. I don't have enough juice in my phone at the moment. I get you, man. Oh, another bad miss. And then they got to go on the road to Minnesota. Then they have Penn State, which is homecoming. Then they have Indiana after Penn State coming to town. They got to go on the road. I'm on my tablet. Gotcha. Then you have at Rutgers, Michigan State, at Oregon, UCLA comes to town, and then they end it with Ohio State. Traditionally, they got to go on the road to the Shoe. Kind of at a bird's eye, Western Michigan, they should win that. Oklahoma is going to be the big test at what Michigan is going forward, in my opinion. Then they have another cupcake in UTEP. Then having Iowa come to town, I think, you know what Iowa's going to do. It ain't no secret. And then Minnesota. Traditionally, Michigan beats Minnesota. And then they have a bye week, Penn State, Indiana. That I don't think that's going to be a favorable back-to-back for the Wolverines. If they can get through their first 4 Big Ten games 3-1, Michigan's got it. They're staring at the playoffs because they got 3 big ones this year. They have Indiana. Then they have to go on the road to Oregon at the end of the year. They have UCLA coming to town, and then Ohio State. 9-3, a 9-3 Big Ten team, I don't think gets in the playoff. So at best, they got to go 10-2, and then they're in like Flynn, in my opinion. But also, speaking of the college football playoff, they've got the conference records in the college football playoff since it started. SEC leads the way at 20-15. Big Ten is second at 16-12. The ACC 9-8. Notre Dame 3-3. For the independents. And then the Pac-12 ended up 2-3. Michigan's issue will be Ohio State, Indiana, and at Oregon. Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. I think those are the 3 toughest games. And they can't fart around and lose one. But I think Kyle Whittingham will have them focused and ready to go. I think he's one of the best coaches in the modern era of the last 20 years of consistency. And then the Big 12 is 1-7 in the college football playoff. Mountain West 0-1, Sun Belt 0-1, and the American 0-2. So that's kind of where we're at. Also a little throwback topic. When it comes to Bear Bryant versus Robert Nealon, when he was at Big 12 is irrelevant in my opinion. Yeah, I don't disagree, but throwback topic between Robert Nealon versus Bear Bryant. They ended up with they faced off. They faced off 7 times when Bear Bryant was at Kentucky. Robert Nealon won 5, and they tied twice. I think that's an interesting stat. Some people don't think that's interesting at all, but I think you got to pay homage to the greats that helped found the sport. But I think that's an interesting caveat on Robert Nealon versus Bear Bryant at Kentucky. Obviously, Bear Bryant had more success when he went to Alabama, but interesting. So there's kind of that. And then also I was skimming through the most career touchdowns in the SEC. And I was kind of shocked that Tebow is first on this list with 145 touchdowns. You have notable guys on there like Tim Tebow, Danny Warfel, Drew Lock, Peyton Manning, Chris Leak. Eli Manning only 86 touchdowns. Jackson Dart missed him by 2. Andre Woodson 84 touchdowns at Kentucky. Tua 96 touchdowns. Same with Will Rogers, Chris Leak, Nick Fitzgerald. Just some interesting guys from the past in that. And it's fascinating, to be completely honest, with that list of where some of those great guys rank.
Be completely honest with that list.
Turn your device down in the background, but who do we have?
My name is Javier. How are you?
Doing good. What you got?
That's good. Well, I just want to say before I start, happy Cinco de Mayo. But on to, the NFL football, their American football. And I just want to say I'm going on a trip to Vegas in June, and I saw this ad to bet on the Super Bowl. So who do you think is going to win the Super Bowl in 2007? So, I know who to put my money on. I'm trying to make some.
Looking at it, who do I think wins the Super Bowl? Bet the Chiefs, but outside of that, have a good night, man. Yeah. I don't know, bet the Chiefs. Oh yeah, it is Cinco de Mayo. Oh, Disciple says Seattle again. Yeah, that's what happens when you have done the call-in show for a bit. That is thought you got me, but you didn't. You thought, but you didn't, because I hung up on you too fast. Because there was going to be a joke after the Super Bowl question. But we'll see. Also, something that Lane Kiffin said a few weeks ago when he was asked about the 9-game conference schedule, he says it's not a good idea. Which I get it. But the SEC had to go from 8 to 9. It just, the 4 non-cons were not going to do it. Because if you go back and look when he was at Ole Miss, his non-con games were just awful. Furman, the Citadel, Middle Tennessee. Like, what are we doing here? Price is now a Seahawk. Oh, that ought to be good. But yeah, phone line is open. Number to call 260-255-4069 is the number to call. But yeah, the 9-game conference schedule changes, in my opinion, everything, to be completely honest, for the SEC, because you're not going to have a log jam of teams that are 6-2 anymore. That extra game's going to create chaos. Although the protected opponents thing was stupid the way they did it, because I thought with LSU's protected opponents, they should have had at minimum Alabama, Auburn, and Ole Miss should have been their 3 quote unquote protected opponents, in my opinion. But we'll see. We'll see where it shakes out. It just, nah. Although it's awesome, the Cavs are getting completely crushed. I'm done watching that. I know that much. Hey, good to hear from you, Joe. I totally forgot to text you. Forgot to text my buddy Joe this morning. But that's good. You're doing well, man. But I think the nine game conference schedule is going to. I think it's going to. I think it's going to even out the SEC big time. I think that some people dislike it. The coaches dislike it for sure because it's another opportunity to lose, because I know a lot of them think that they would much rather play UTEP in week 2 or 4 or whatever week it is, or an FCS opponent, instead of playing Mississippi State, because it presents another opportunity to lose. And you just never know what will happen. And Joe says, I don't see the SEC being as formidable as they were. Well, I think the problem with the SEC right now is that they don't want to acknowledge what the issues are. The issues are they're having funding issues. Now, I think they can get around that. Do I think the funding will pick up? Yeah. But Nick Saban famously once says, I can't create more millionaires in Alabama, or I would. And college football now is an arms race. So I think going forward, in order to leverage more money out of ABC, Disney, the SEC had to pick up a conference game. Because I'm sorry, they were tired of 4 games a year having bad ratings. That's really what it was. I think that's what ESPN was complaining about, to be completely honest. So I think that too many big teams. Well, it comes down to both the conference and the network being like, hey, we need inventory. Okay. Well, the inventory you're giving us sucks. Oklahoma and Texas were Big 12, not SEC. Well, I think by them adding those 2 teams, it helps. But I think that's why the SEC will add Virginia and North Carolina in 2030, because they're looking at it to where Arkansas will beat those teams. Disciple Tennessee was ACC. But I think that's something to be said going forward, that the SEC, the next time they expand, they're going to add teams that everybody in the conference can feast on. That's just something I think is what's going to happen going forward. But anyway, best college football win-loss record since COVID. Georgia leads the way at 73-9. Ohio State is second, 66-11. Alabama 69-14. Notre Dame 64-15. Oregon 62-15. Michigan 59-16. JMU 40-11. Ole Miss 57-20. BYU 57-20, and Clemson 57-22. So I think those are some interesting records going forward. Obviously, Kirby, no coaching change at Georgia, no coaching change at Ohio State, coaching change at Alabama, coaching change at Oregon and Notre Dame. Coaching change at Michigan. They've been through two. Pretty eventful for the Maize and Blue. JMU's had a coaching change, and Ole Miss didn't have theirs until this year, but that's a unique circumstance. And no coaching change at Clemson. So just some interesting records there to go forward. Notre Dame still holds the most NFL Hall of Famers. Yes. Also, Media Days kicks off in July in Tampa this year. If anybody's going to watch it and watch the Dog and Pony Show, that is the opening press conferences for the folks out there from the SEC, which I think that they've strategically put the schedule together the way they did to get people to stay there. It's Monday through Thursday. Starts Monday, July 20th. The first day it is Kentucky, Missouri, Oklahoma, Tennessee, which obviously they paired Heupel with the Oklahoma media. Joe, that's just it, Duke. The super conference is wiping out the middle class. It's just like the rich and the poor. Well, I think it's very interesting when it's put into perspective like that. But the thing that I've always often wondered, and I really wonder this, for the teams that aren't competitive, what is Purdue doing with all their TV money? Like, seriously. Like, I know Barry Odom showed up there to win games. I think that's why Jeff Brom said, see you later. He got out as soon as he could. How about Arizona? Oh, I gotta put this up on the screen. How about Arizona in the NFL adding Love? Will it make an impact? Yeah, I think Jeremiah Love will make an impact. I think what Arizona did better than anything was get rid of Kyler Murray, because I think they were going nowhere fast. They have a dynamic wide receiver in Marvin Harrison, and they weren't getting into the ball. I think a lot of, outside of when Arizona's defense was bad, I think a lot of the Arizona Cardinal problem was a kind of a Kyler Murray problem, because I don't think he cared. And I think he'll be the starter in Minnesota. And even though we don't do a ton of NFL talk on this channel, but I'm just saying, I think the Minnesota Vikings like botched it bad when it comes to the quarterback decision. I think that's why they fired the GM, because I think the GM sold to the ownership, hey, we don't need Sam Darnold. We could duplicate this with J.J. McCarthy, and you see how that turned out. So I think that's why they went out and got Kyler Murray, to see if they have a shot to be competitive, because Sam Darnold goes to Seattle and wins the Super Bowl. Nice Clemson shirt, by the way. Yeah, I had a friend send this to me. And that's where I get a lot of my team gear. I have a lot of friends that from around the country that are fans of teams, and send it on over. So appreciate my buddy sending that over. But that's why I got a lot of different hats and a lot of different team gear, because I have people send it to me. So appreciate those folks that do that. And if you want to get in touch with me, email or follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all of that fun stuff. But yeah, also phone line is open. Number to call, 260-255-4069. But back to SEC Media Days. On Monday, they got Kentucky, Missouri, Oklahoma, and Tennessee. I'm sure there's going to be some weird Oklahoma questions to Heupel. I guarantee you that's going to happen. And, Kentucky, new coach Will Stein. I think that'll be interesting. But I'll almost, if I could if I could make a bet, I would bet Eli Drinkowitz talks about expanding the college football playoff again. I bet he does. That'll be somewhere in his opening statements. It'll be in there somewhere. Drinkowitz. What do we have? Ooh, Shams just reports. Shams reports the NBA has fined Boston's Jaylen Brown $50,000 for his comments criticizing the referees during a live stream after Game 7 series lost in the first round against the Sixers. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why Adam Silver sucks as the commissioner of the NBA. I'm just sorry. He's terrible. He's terrible. If he would have done it at a press conference, yeah. But, I mean, I guess I'd have to look at the CBA. But, to Jaylen Brown, I think he got a super max deal. That's pretty much complete butt wipe money. Could Minchie make an impact at Kentucky? Did after all challenge CJ? I think Kenny Minchie will be. I think Kentucky's shockingly going to be better. They moved on from Stoops, which that was expensive. Ooh boy, that's a little morbid, but I think that Minchie could make a big impact at Kentucky. What's Joe got here? Yeah, I hear you, Joe, on that. But I think Kenny Minchie will make an impact. I don't know how good Kentucky will be. I put them in the question mark category. But do I think Kentucky will beat somebody they're not supposed to this year? I could see it. I could definitely see it. Now, the issue comes in when it comes to Kentucky. Are you going to pony up if Stein has a really good year? That's where it gets interesting, because I don't know if anybody's checking the temperature out there, because South Carolina might come open this year. Just saying. And then on Tuesday, the 21st, you have Auburn, Georgia, South Carolina, and Vanderbilt up at Media Day. Shane Beamer will probably say something weird. Alex Golish, new coach. Kirby will be there, so there'll be a lot of eyes. And then Clark Lee. And then Wednesday, it's DeBoer, Summerall, or it's Alabama, Florida, Ole Miss, and Texas A&M. Minchie will be a good addition, but he isn't to the CJ Carr level. That's fair. That's why he didn't win the job. I think that they strategically place these coaches on Media Day for a reason. I think DeBoer is going to get asked, I think, 1,000 questions on, was he seriously considering leaving Alabama? And if I was the PR team that was doing stuff at Alabama, I would have had him made those statements about taking another job after Media Day. But that's just me. Or they maybe announced it before Media Day so they can get all of the questions out of the way and they can turn their focus to the season, which is smart on their part. I'm not as media savvy as some people out there, but yeah, John Summerall, new coach, Pete Golding, new coach, and then you'll have Mike Elko. And then the last day, you have Ryan Silverfield, also new coach, Arkansas, LSU, Mississippi State, and Texas on the last day. They put Lane on the last day to get people to get down there, so they'll be there for the whole day so it doesn't look empty. I'm just telling you what they do. So, just saying. And then also, on another NFL note, Duke, is DeBoer a top 10 coach? Sorry, I missed that, Joe. Yes, I will say he's a top 10 coach. Yes. I don't think Beamer is a bad coach. Disciple says he just has to work with what he has, but should go to his dad's team at Virginia Tech. I don't think he was going to. I think Shane Beamer is one of those stubborn coaches that you're just going to have to fire me before I leave. That's what I think that came down to. So, do I think that he'll end up getting shown the door this year? I think it's on the table. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility, but I don't think he can go 4-8 again because they want to win down there at South Carolina. And sorry, but he's terrible, young Beamer. Well, see, here's what upset the market. And the reason why I say this is what upset the market was that guy at Indiana, whether you love him, hate him, or what have you, he won the national championship at Indiana. Joe says he still makes stupid mistakes. Yeah. DeBoer is just luck. I don't know. I think he's won everywhere he's went. That's my thing with DeBoer. He's won everywhere he's went. So it makes it hard. Joe says he's not an in-game manager. Yeah, there's been some major clock issues with Beamer and some questionable calls, but I think they'll have to fire Beamer to get him to leave. And where he ends up, that I don't know. Be very fascinating, to be completely honest. But anyway, also moving on to the NFL, everything you need to watch he doesn't know how to make adjustments. They're just what he's doing. They're just wrong decisions. Yeah. I think if he can hang on till the end of the season, what will help Beamer the most is if Lenoris Sellers gets drafted in the first round. Because the coaches that left had good teams built. Yeah, but Alabama was a different beast. Alabama lost 39 scholarship players when he took over them. So we'll see what it looks like in 3 years. But in 2030, is he the head football coach at Alabama? I think the extension comes because I think he was really weighing the possibility of going to Michigan. I think that offer was real. I would say the Penn State offer was real because extensions don't just poof come out of nowhere. Washington? I mean, he took Penix with him. So I think that helped a lot. So, I mean, they made it to the national championship, loses to Harbaugh at Michigan, so there's kind of that. all the different channels you need to watch the NFL this year. You need Netflix, Amazon Prime, NFL Network, Peacock, Fox, CBS, ESPN Plus, Paramount Plus, YouTube TV, and NFL Sunday Ticket. That is just a lot of streamers that you need. But there's a guy that I think that is going to go under the radar. He's kind of been under the radar. And that's Charles Huff. And the reason why I say that, they got that deal inked with FedEx. Total BS. It is what it is. Are you talking about the jersey patch with Memphis? Getting the FedEx jersey patch is total BS, Disciple? Or are you talking about the DeBoer stuff? Or him losing to Michigan? Huh. But I think Charles Huff is going to be one of those guys that's going to be in line for an SEC job. Oh, NFL streaming? Yeah, that's what I was wondering what you were talking about on that. Joe says I agree. Yeah, the NFL, I mean, I don't get it, but it's I won't watch. Well, I also think that going forward, you're going to see the NFL come to Tuesday. For as much people that don't believe me on that, they're looking for a new time window, is what they're looking for. I think the NFL shows up on Tuesday or Wednesday. Yep. Because I think they show up on those days, and the reason why they'll show up on those days, they'll test it like they did Thursday Night Football, because when they started Thursday Night Football back in the day, it was NFL Network only for 4 weeks. And then it extended to 6 weeks, and then they announced, we're going to have Thursday Night Football all the time. It's the same thing with the European games because it draws ratings. So we'll see. And also we talked about Wisconsin the other day, and the thing that happened is Wisconsin's athletics will now receive $14.6 million annually from the state of Wisconsin. And then Disciple says it's money. Chicago or Packers Bears. Yeah. I remember when they played that on Saturday night, it did almost 40 million in ratings. It was one of the highest rated games of the NFL regular season on a Saturday night in December. So, but anyway, Wisconsin getting 14.6 annually from the state for athletics. I think that they are supermanning it up for Jason Eck to take that job, because I think Fickle might be a dead man walking if he doesn't win. The new law recognizes athletics as an economic engine for the state, is the way Wisconsin is spinning it. A little don't tell these story, tell your story. The money is going to be scheduled to free up other funds for athlete payroll, is how they're doing it. But it was only on Prime. Or, yeah, it is now. It's only on Prime now. But I'm talking about when they first got Thursday Night Football started. Also, this out of the Masters, seen this a few days ago. The Masters is expected to bring in $70 million in merchandise sales and selling out of the Nome in the first hour. The Masters, they make a killing on that. So, yeah, that's very, very fascinating, to say the least. At $70 million in just clothes and merch, but people love golf. Oh, yeah, seeing an ad for the Gatorade, low sugar, awful. Bought one, terrible, tasted bad. Just give me the unleaded. Although I don't drink Gatorade a ton. But Gatorade, if you want to sponsor, I'll love it then. You want to pay me some money, I'll plug you. Also just seen this on SEC on some biggest wins that some schools have had. Vanderbilt's biggest win is against Auburn in 1948, 47-0. Thought that was interesting. And then somebody put a list out. I thought this was an interesting list. They still have Texas slated as the top dog in the SEC, and then it's got as CFP contenders: Alabama, Georgia, LSU, Texas A&M. I'd put Georgia as top dog. Just my opinion. And then it says solid but not great: Missouri, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, Tennessee. I think Missouri is going to be a lot better than what people think, but that's just me. And then it says bowl bound, hopefully, Auburn, Florida, South Carolina, Vanderbilt. Disciple says, golf, I'm going to bed. I hate golf, kind of like soccer. Watch me hit or kick the ball back and forth. Well, it's. I'm just throwing it out there on the revenue numbers that the Masters tournament made. They were expecting $70 million on shirts and trinkets and all of that fun stuff. And then it says rebuild and pray: Arkansas, Kentucky, Mississippi State. Very interesting, to say the least. And then one last thing that we can get into this evening is the college basketball TV numbers. I thought these were interesting. Obviously the Final Four, Connecticut, Michigan, football, hockey, and some basketball. I'll watch hockey every now and then. I don't understand the technical aspect of hockey, but I know you got to score to win. And the Cavs are just getting dismantled by the Pistons. And the Pistons look horrific against the Magic in that series, and they're coming out and they are just laying the wood to the Cavs, which I think is funny, but that's just me. But anyway, college basketball TV numbers. Michigan, UConn, the Final Four did an 18.3 million people watch the Final Four, and then Michigan, Arizona was second, 14.2. The Final Four games were the highest rated games. The best game of the year, which in my opinion ended up fourth on the list during the NCAA tournament, was UConn Duke, 13.4. But those are some of the notable games Michigan played in. Obviously, the two of the biggest games of the year had the best TV number, UConn and Arizona, when they played those respective universities. Better than La Flop. Oh boy. We'll have to see how that whole playoff series ends. I mean, they open up against Oklahoma City. But I also thought this was fascinating too when I got to talking or looking at the graphic. And it was the winningest college football teams in the 2010s versus the 2020s. I thought it was interesting because the list goes as follows. You have Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, and this is the 2010s. Oklahoma, Boise State, LSU, Wisconsin, Oregon, Georgia, Stanford, Florida State, Oklahoma State, Michigan State, Notre Dame, Northern Illinois, San Diego State, UCF, Auburn, Penn State, TCU. Now we're only technically 5 years in to the 2020s, and this is fascinating. In the 2020s decade, you have Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Oregon, Michigan, BYU, Clemson, Ole Miss, Texas, SMU, UTSA, Oklahoma, Penn State, Boise, Coastal Carolina's on there, Iowa, Liberty, Louisiana Lafayette, and Tulane. Which I think Tulane's put a major investment into football. They went on a limb, hired Willie Fritz. He won at a high level, beat USC in that bowl game, then jettisons on to Houston. Summerall comes in, takes him to the college football playoff. Done a lot of winning down in Tulane in the last 5 years. But I find it interesting, to say the least, with that list. You have some duplicate candidates, and then others, you don't have anybody that are first times on the list. And then I guess one last thing before we go. The drafted quarterbacks, a quarterback comparison from last year's NFL draft. You had Cam Ward, Jackson Dart, Tyler Shook, Jalen Milroe, Dylan Gabriel, Shador Sanders, Will Howard, Quinn Ewers. Although the guys on this list, Fernando Mendoza, Ty Simpson, Garrett Nussmeier, Drew Aller, Cade Klubnik, Carson Beck. Although they have Pavia and Luke Altmaier on there. What does Disciples say? Notre Dame biggest slump was the mid-90s with Davies and Willingham era. Yeah, I think you can lump Charlie Weiss in there too. Charlie Weiss Sr., because it didn't go well. Although, me personally, I would love to have Charlie Weiss Sr.'s agent. I don't know who his agent was, but I would have loved to have his agent. Oh. To be completely honest. Man. Trying to get this chair to cooperate. Weiss was an offensive genius, though. Yeah, but although I will say the whole Jimmy Clausen experience didn't work out very well. There we go. I mean, but, Notre Dame back then, and then they hired Brian Kelly, and it took off, and it was good, and then Kelly got lazy and complacent. Which I don't think BK gave it his all, though, to be completely honest. There at the end, I think he piled it in, or mailed it in. Huh. That's interesting. Also, CFB Prep put this out that I thought was interesting. They're teams that will improve. I guess we got 15 minutes before I gotta fold up shop. They got USC leading the charge. USC, Notre Dame. Disciple says Kelly to me was all flash. Never understood the Irish legacy. I think the biggest thing, if you look back on the Brian Kelly era at Notre Dame, was Brian Kelly was for Brian Kelly. Joe says Clausen was actually a very good college QB. Had some great wide receivers, but had no line. He was always running for his life. Yeah, I think Jimmy put up good numbers, but I remember when they signed Jimmy Clausen, they thought it was going to save the whole program, but that's like with anything. I don't think you can quite get there, but I don't think that there's one in football. There's not just one kid that can completely save your program. If you guys understand what I'm saying. Charlie Love recruiting the skill positions. Oh yeah, he didn't recruit offensive linemen. That's just my opinion, but anyway, back to the list before we run out of time. USC, Notre Dame, Texas, LSU, Virginia Tech, Penn State, South Carolina, UCLA, Florida, Oklahoma State. Now, when I go by these team for team, when it comes to USC, gotta show up, guys. They gotta figure it out. Or, like I said earlier, Lincoln will be out. Notre Dame improve what? They have CJ Carr. Also for the Lakers, no Luka Doncic playing tonight. So we'll see how that shakes for them. Huh. Interesting. LSU, yeah, I think they'll be improved with Lane Kiffin. Virginia Tech, obviously, with James Franklin. Penn State with Matt Campbell. I think their record will be better. Will they be, like I said earlier, will it? Yeah, I understand what you're saying, Disciple. South Carolina. Here we go. Joe, can't believe SC jumped ship with our rivalry. These next 4 years would have been likely the glory days. Now they have to hope to meet in the CFP playoff. Well, I think Lincoln Riley was tired of having losses because he played 10 Power 4 opponents every year. But I think that, if they rededicate and fix some things and they get better on defense, I think that USC is only going to go as far as they can get when it comes to, Lincoln Riley was just so offense heavy. So we'll see. But I think UCLA will be better. I think Florida will be better. I think Oklahoma State will be better. I think Gundy was tired. at the end of his tenure. Irish are looking at another top 5 recruiting class again. Yeah, because they finally got serious about NIL. ND plays power 4 opponents regularly. Yeah, they do. But I think the issue with USC is that they got into a conference that they fully were not prepared for. That's also what I think happened as well. But we'll see. And then they have the second rung of teams on this list that they say are staying put: Oregon, Georgia, Michigan, Miami, Texas Tech, which I think Texas Tech's in trouble, but Washington, Utah, SMU, Clemson, Iowa. And the reason why I think it's funny they put Utah on there, I think they lost a lot of guys that they're not going to be able to replace. No, 2027 class. Oh, gotcha. Agree, it was a money grab. Huh. Yeah, it was. It was a big money grab, to be completely honest. Not NIL. Well, I think they did get serious about it. But I still retain when they lost Deuce Knight, I think that was the big driving force behind it. And then the last rung of teams that they have, that teams that will decline, Indiana, got to put them on there. Vanderbilt, gotta pencil in Vandy. Ole Miss, Tulane, North Texas, Connecticut, Virginia, Texas A&M, Duke, and not NC State, but Iowa State. Iowa State, yeah, I could see that. Duke, who knows? They lost their quarterback to Miami, Darian Mensah, so gonna be a tough road to go. But they are defending ACC champs. A&M, I don't think A&M will decline, because I think if it all works out well, Marcel Reed will take a big step forward. Virginia, who knows? They're probably most likely going to have Bo Perbula. Connecticut, I could definitely see it. North Texas, I can see it. I think Tulane will hold steady with Will Hall. And then I think he was in a bad situation at Southern Miss, but they want to ignore that. And then when it comes to Ole Miss, it'll be, what is Disciple saying? New QB, new tight end, soon top 5 ranked DT out of Chicago. Oh, yeah, Marcus Freeman's recruiting at a high level. And they didn't even qualify for the ACC title game, Miami. Yeah, I mean, Duke is reigning ACC champs. Funny how that works. I mean, at that luncheon or whatever that they went to, Kirby Smart poked at Mario about it. Said he needed to spend more time with Steve Spurrier because he's won more ACC titles than you have at Miami. So I'm pretty sure Miami football's never won the ACC championship. Kind of embarrassing, but I digress. But yeah, the Ole Miss thing that had to be in their main lanes. The media darling. They want to poke fun at Vanderbilt because it's Vanderbilt, and then Indiana because they can't stand Cignetti, that he wins at the losingest program. But we'll see. We'll see how it shakes out. But I think as far as off-season content-wise, I think we're doing pretty decent. But outside of that, I think that I think we'll have to see. I think people will get, as long as we can get through. Disciple says, "I'll laugh if Ole Miss beats LSU." Oh, dude, that's gonna be That'll be meltdown central for Tiger fans. Definitely doing a watch party with the phone lines open all day for that one. Definitely going to have that one open. Definitely for sure. Just making sure I didn't miss any calls. But, yeah. But, you know, we'll see. We'll see how this whole thing shakes out. But, ooh, Cleveland looks like they're coming back, but doubtful. But, yeah, outside of that, I think, Chambliss and Lacey are still there. Yeah. But I honestly think, what's Joe saying? I think LSU get to their conference championship game with UGA. You're that high on LSU, Joe? I think the main fundamental reason that Lane Kiffin got the LSU job is I think he promised them Trinidad Chambliss and Kewan Lacey, and they stayed at Ole Miss with Pete Golding. That's why I think he got the LSU job. And also, let's think of it this way. You have the governor meddling in college athletics of your state. Are we really thinking that's good for business? They keep getting good recruits for some reason. No, he's dominating the state of LSU or Louisiana, but the problem's going to be is when he doesn't take certain kids that are LSU kids that want to do nothing but play for the Tigers. That's where it's going to run into an issue, because if you go back and look at snap numbers for Lane Kiffin, he doesn't like to play freshmen unless he has to. Saban understudy. Well, considering he got fired in Alabama, but I don't want to talk about that. So we'll see. We'll see how the Kiffin thing shakes out at LSU. But I can tell you this much. I am just ready for football to start. I don't like to wish away the summer, but it'll get that itch again whenever media days roll around, which is in, like I said, July 20th. We'll get to hear the coaches speak, and then I think the following week camp starts, and we're going to be off to the races. So, me too. Gotcha, Joe. So I guess really with that being said, you can do us the biggest favor. Hit that like and subscribe button. And appreciate Disciple, Joe. You guys have been with us for a long time. Appreciate you guys pulling up and hanging out. I am so Lambeau Field against Wisconsin. Oh, yeah. That's going to be awesome. That'll be cool for Notre Dame. But, yeah, appreciate you guys coming to hang out. And it's a wrap. Yeah, we're going to wrap it up tonight. Went a little long tonight, so appreciate you guys. Do us the biggest favor. Hit that like and subscribe button. And also, if you like college football, like the video. And we will talk to you guys tomorrow. Have a good night, everybody.